How to understand the history of the role of the high priest in the Hebrew faith and in the Christian faith. In the Old Testament, the high priest was a mediator between God and the people of Israel. The high priest was responsible for making sacrifices for the people of Israel on the Day of Atonement. The first official high priest was Moses' brother Aaron. However, there were men named in the Bible who would make sacrifices of atonement, interceding on behalf of sinners who served the function of a high priest. The high priest would atone for all the sins of the people and intercede on their behalf, and God would forgive. The high priest's role was to offer sacrifices that satisfied God's justice and demonstrated his mercy. The high priest was not like a pastor or priest, though both do have the ability and knowledge of the scriptures to teach them. It was a mediator position, someone who intercedes between man and God, and a role that Jesus took on after his death and resurrection. Today, in the Hebrew faith, there is no Jewish priesthood. According to the Old Testament, the only place from which it was appropriate to offer animal sacrifices to God was the temple in Jerusalem. In AD 70, the temple was destroyed, meaning Jewish priests no longer had a place to sacrifice. Since the temple is still in ruins today, there is currently no place for sacrifice. Therefore, there is no active priesthood in Judaism. How the high priesthood had changed from the tribe of Levi to Judah. The Levitical priesthood was established by God through Moses, and it was a system of priests from the tribe of Levi who would offer sacrifices to God on behalf of the people of Israel. However, the priesthood was not perfect, and it was unable to provide a permanent solution to the problem of sin. The book of Hebrews in the New Testament explains that Jesus Christ is the perfect high priest who offered himself as a sacrifice for the sins of the world. Jesus was not from the tribe of Levi, but from the tribe of Judah. The book of Hebrews explains that Jesus' priesthood is superior to the Levitical priesthood, because it is based on the order of Melchizedek, who was a priest of God Most High. The Levitical priesthood was temporary and imperfect, but Jesus' priesthood is eternal and perfect. Jesus' sacrifice on the cross was the ultimate sacrifice for sin, and it was sufficient to pay the penalty for the sins of the world. Therefore, the Levitical priesthood was no longer necessary after Jesus' death and resurrection. Hebrew 9, verse 12, not with the blood of goats and calves, but with his own blood he entered the most holy place once for all, having obtained eternal redemption. The high priest in Judaism was the chief religious functionary in the Temple of Jerusalem. He had the unique privilege of entering the Holy of Holies, the inner sanctum of the temple, once a year on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, to burn incense and sprinkle sacrificial animal blood, expiate his own sins and those of the people of Israel. This was done to atone for the sins of the people and himself. The veil of the temple was a long, woven curtain that separated the most holy place, which held the Ark of the Covenant and the mercy seat. The veil was a symbol of the separation of God from sinful mankind. When Jesus died on the cross, the temple veil was torn from top to bottom. This event is significant because it symbolized the fact that mankind's separation from God had been removed by Jesus' supreme sacrifice at Calvary. The veils being torn by God himself symbolized that the separation between God and man was no longer necessary. The veil was torn from top to bottom, which shows that God was the one who caused the veil to be torn. The tearing of the veil was a sign that the way to God was now open to all people through faith in Jesus Christ.